Thank you for having me. And my name is Jean-Baptiste. I am French, from Nantes, on the west of France. In my personal life, I love food. I think living in France does help a lot. I like to read that Japanese comics, known as mangas. Yeah, just practice sports and reading. And Alteryx, I think. Yeah, that's pretty much it.
What's your favorite French dish?
Oh, hard question. I'm more sweet than salt. And I think it's not French, but I love cheesecake.
Yeah, I love a
Yeah,
good cheesecake.
yeah. And I think as French, I love pastries. Yeah,
Yes,
and just French bread.
absolutely. Yeah, I would love to have a pastry right now. Maybe I'll go get one after this recording. It's bright and early for me. Bienvenue sur Alter Everything, un podcast sur le sens des données et la culture analytique. Je m'appelle Maddie Johansson, and for today's episode, I spoke with Jean-Baptiste Pinet, data consultant for the Information Lab in France. We had a chat about the fun work Jean-Baptiste is doing on the Alteryx French community. From planning exciting user group meetings with mini versions of the Alteryx Grand Prix, aka Le Petit Prix, to his upskilling project, Question pour un outil. You'll hear that translation in a bit. Jean-Baptiste is having a blast on the community, and he'll share some advice on how important it is to check in with your likes and dislikes so you can focus on the activities that fill your cup and bring you joy. Let's get started. Well, I'd love to dig into a little bit more of your personal journey. As you said, you're French, you live in France, and I'd love to hear about your path to being at the Information Lab in France and how that has led to being such an active member on the Alteryx community.
In France, we are 18 and we go to universities. We don't do, at least when I was, we don't do computing. So, unfortunately, it changed a bit, but at my time we didn't. But I knew I wanted to do that, to do computing. So I've started a computing license at the university in La Rochelle, still on the west coast of France, where I've been for 5 years. So license and master, which is PhD, I think, in US.
That's
And
so cool.
for my third year, I've been in Erasmus in Wales, next to Cardiff, for the whole year to still study computing. And in my master, for the last 2 years, I've specialized in business intelligence. And this is when I knew I wanted to work in data. And during my last year of study, I've been hired as a part-time employee and part-time study computing consulting firm. And then in July 2019, I've quit to start at the Information Lab because I wanted to practice Tableau that I discovered during my studies. And then during the hiring process at the Information Lab, I discovered Alteryx. And I just loved it, and I knew that's what I wanted to do. So I've been hired to the Information Lab, and since then I'm just doing Tableau and Alteryx for my happiness. Yeah.
That's great to hear. And so in your university, you mentioned that you first started using Alteryx in the interview process for the Information Lab.
Yeah.
In university and throughout your studies, I'm curious if you saw any overlap or, any potential benefit looking back of, what would it have been like if you had the opportunity to learn Alteryx at university, or if you had discovered it and then you were able to utilize the Sparked program, for example, which gives free licenses to students. I'm just curious if you see any sort of overlap or potential benefit to enhance that curriculum at university.
I would have loved to discover Alteryx specifically in my studies because I think I would have known sooner I want to do that. For any tool, I think, as the Spark program, having free licenses is really good. I didn't have any of that for any software. We just had some trial licenses, like for 1 week, 2 weeks, and then we discovered some tools. But we have never been too deep in using some softwares, and I never learned Alteryx during my studies. And I think it's good to discover some tools. There are so many out there. It's not possible, I think, to have an introduction to any tool, but it would be good if like teachers or university would give students maybe a list or just mention what tools exist, and then in their spare time just students can just discover the tools, get to know what they like in data, because there are so many things to do in data. So there are many tools that can be used, so students would learn what they like, what they don't like. It's important. And I think they would know sooner, before starting to work, professionally speaking, they would know sooner what they want to do. And I discovered Alteryx 1 year after I finished my studies, but I think some people, and I'm sure some people, discovers the tool they love many years after their studies. Maybe 10, maybe 20, maybe less, and I think it's sad because some people would have loved to know those tools before and start their career using those tools earlier.
That's a great point. And I love what you said about how important it is to learn what you do and don't like. And I also, I think even just that skill of asking yourself and checking in, like, am I really enjoying this? Or is there something missing here that, I would help me enjoy XYZ more? I still, even now, I feel like I'm constantly figuring out things that I like and don't like. And, I'm curious, what is it about Alteryx, or what is it about programming that you really liked in university?
I think it's the problem-solving side of the thing, and also Alteryx, and more generally programming, it matches the way I think. I think in a very logical way. I have something to start, I want to go somewhere. What do I have to do from start to finish? To me, that's the way Alteryx starts. You have an input, you want an output. What are the steps you need to do between both of them? And that's kind of the same for programming. And I think that's what I liked. My first 3 years of studies were pure programming, and I loved that, but I think it was too technical for me. I didn't only want to do programming, and I think this is why I've been to data and something like Alteryx, which is less programming. It's still problem solving, it's still start, finish, and find the steps between both, but less technical for me. I didn't think I was bad, but I just prefer less code and more focus on what I'm doing.
Yeah, really insightful there. I think that's really cool. So I'd love to hear how you've kind of turned that into being such a superstar on the community, on the Alteryx community. You're very present, especially in the French community, and you're just a well-known face there. So yeah, I'd love to hear some of the ways that you've helped your fellow community members.
There are many things. Maybe not that much, but a few things I'm trying to do. First, I'm leading the Alteryx user group in France. It started with, I tried to open one in Nantes, where I'm living right now, but I did one edition, and then COVID hit, so we stopped, obviously. Mm-hmm. And as we stopped and we went from something physical to virtual, we tried to start French-speaking virtual user group. So for France, Belgium, Switzerland, Luxembourg, and other French people, maybe in Canada or somewhere else. So we started this with Arthur Ladvine, you may know. He's an Alteryx ace.
Oh, and, yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Arthur's great.
We are colleagues, so we started that at the French-speaking level in virtual. So yeah, we made 3 editions. And now, in this November, we are starting to come back to some physical events. So we have the next one in 13 days. And with those user groups edition, we tried to entertain people and to make them come back and to present some interesting things. So we have built 3 sessions scheme for our user groups. And
cool.
we have one first session which we present, both Arthur and myself, which are either community news, new content, or just general news or evolutions, or we do some tips and tricks sessions for users. Then we have a second session, we invite a guest speaker, so either a client or a community user, and if it's a community user, he can just tell his journey on the community or present another subject he likes. And when we have a client, which he just presents a use case using Alteryx. We had one about during our virtual user group. And then we have a third session, and this is the fun session, at least we try, and we have been doing, for the virtual one, we once made Le Petit Prix, which is kind of the Grand Prix in the Alteryx Inspire, but just smaller, obviously.
Yeah, like the competition.
Yeah, exactly. Where we built a workflow with 3 levels of difficulties, because we have beginners, we have intermediates, we have experts. So we built a challenge with 3 levels. People just completed until the level they could. And then they posted their workflow on the community, and we just look at them who got the right answer, and then we just told who won. And then and so that was a little competition. And for the next user group, so the one coming up, we are doing so in physical, and the third session will be kind of a TV show with questions, live questions with people coming. I think it would, in the US, it would be like kind of Jeopardy. I think that's something.
Jeopardy, no? Like a quiz, trivia.
So
cool.
That's it. In France, we have Question pour un champion, which where you have 4 people. They have questions about any subject. Then there are 3. Then the final between 2 people, and then the winner who gets the most point. So we are going to use this format to make something like that, just to make a fun thing and just try out if it works. And every user group we are doing, we try to create another fun animation, or we test some of them. So the Le Petit Prix, or this animation, the questions TV show, and we will see if it works. We are going to make new editions, and we try to get new ideas. That's not easy, but we try to. So that's for the user groups.
Well, and really quick, sorry, before you move on, I'd love to hear, okay, so you said the French version would be question, and then I missed what you said.
Question pour un champion.
Okay, so what's the translation of that?
Questions for champ, I think.
Okay, great. Yeah, that's kind of as it sounds.
Yeah, so that's a TV show that exists on the French TV. That has been running for, I think at least 30 years.
Oh, wow.
My grandparents were watching at that, and I think they still do.
Fun. Awesome.
But that's quite old, that's it.
That's great. Yeah, it's so creative. I love everything that the user group is doing. And sorry, feel free to continue with your community activity as well.
Okay. So in the community, like many others, I try to answer people's questions, users. But I feel like in the community there are a lot of users that are already answering questions in the community. I think I don't have much to bring on this side, because there are many people doing it. I don't think I don't bring that much value in that. So I try to do some other stuff that when I have ideas to implement them, I try something new. So recently in the French community, I have started Question pour un outil, which would be in English questions for a tool.
Cool.
And so I started that in November 2020. Yeah. And through November and December the same year, I've been trying to ask one question a day to French users, so knowledge question on the community. It was hard to keep up with the one questions a day rhythm. So after December, I liked the idea, but not that way. So I've taken the first 2 weeks of 2021 to rethink the project, how I wanted to drive it and to make it appear on the community. So I've reduced the number of questions. There are 2 questions a week, Tuesday, Thursday, and I've given more visual aspects, building some question cards and posting them on the community and on LinkedIn. And more, it was theoretical when I started, but I have added some practical questions as well, where there are workflow to start and a tool to configure and to get a result. And then people just post their answer or their workflow when it's practical question. Right now, we are Thursday. I posted 83 questions.
Wow.
And I'm aiming at 100 at the end of the year.
That's amazing.
And for this year, all questions are aiming to train people to get the core certification. So the questions are about the 24 tools that are covered by the certifications. And there are some general questions as well about data types, the Alteryx interface. And the first 50 questions, I've created a PDF that gather all the 50 questions and just posted on the community, so people, if they didn't follow the project day by day, they can just grab the PDF and get the 50 questions and just practice for the exam. And I'm going to do the same for the next 50, so I think at the end of the year. And that's from those questions and from this project we are going to do the animation from the next user group. So based on Question pour un champion, we are going to do that, but in live this time. And I have some ideas to develop this project for the upcoming year, but I still don't know how it's going to be. I'd like to make an English version so all users could benefit from that, but I have to work on that, and I start to finish the 100 questions this year in the French community, and I think next year I would like to do the same in the global community, if possible. To just help people upskill, at least at the core certified level. And then, if I have enough time, I'd like to make the same for the advanced level. I think that's it.
Amazing. Yeah. So a couple of things there. First of all, just very impressed. I feel like you've really covered just such a variety of ways that you are helping people on the community, and that you're really engaged on the community. And I think it's so fun. You can't really get to that point unless you enjoy it. So you definitely have that part going for you, for sure. When you were saying that answering questions in the forums, like if somebody is having a specific problem and you were saying that isn't your strong suit, or that you might not be able to lend value to that piece, first of all, I'm sure that you could. You clearly know your stuff, and it's not necessarily about doing everything. It's about doing what you enjoy and what you excel at. And so I think that it's really cool, again, going back to that self-awareness, that self-understanding. I think it's really cool that you recognize that you enjoy putting together these user groups, and you enjoy putting together these questions of the day, and that you have a goal of getting to 100, and you like helping people get ready for the core exam. So yeah, I just want to point that out, and I'm sure that people really appreciate your help in getting them to that core certification and helping them on their Alteryx journey.
I hope so.
Yeah, no, for sure. And what do you think that motivation is? You're clearly spending your time helping these people that you might not necessarily know, and people who they're going to stumble upon these posts and these questions next year or the year after that, where you're just creating these kind of long-lasting assets. Where does that motivation come from?
I think it's first because I love Alteryx and the community, but most of it I think it's because I just want to help people to create resources they can use anytime, and create material, because I post the questions, but they stay. They are not going anywhere. So people, as you said, even if it's in 2 or 3 years, the questions are still out there, so they can find them. I think it's just creating some materials, because in the French community isn't as developed as the global community, and I think this is what, as there are not that much content, so some academic content is getting translated, but I think we can, as users, create more content. I say as users because we don't work for Alteryx, but I know there are so many users that have really good ideas, that are creating custom tools, that are creating innovative solutions. So I think we can all bring something, and I just try to know what I can bring. And I love quizzes, participating and also animating. I love animating quizzes. And I think that's how I can help people and help them getting upskilled, because the more people knows how to use Alteryx, the more they can in the turn help people. So I think we all benefit from helping each other. And I think that's why I do that. I get motivated.
Yeah, that's great. And when you talk about animating, I think of a different thing in English. So I'm wondering, so when you animate a quiz, are you creating a quiz, or is like an animation something that's interactive?
Oh, okay. Good question. So I love to create quiz and presenting the quiz. So for the project, I just post the questions, and then people answer whenever they want. But as an example, for the user group, as it's it's live during the user group, I will be presenting, asking the questions, and
cool. So like the game show host, or like the MC.
I didn't have the term or the word, but that's it.
No, I love it. That totally makes sense. Very cool. I actually like that a little bit better than MC. I don't know why we even say MC. Do you guys have that?
Idea.
Yeah, so like for people who like host events and stuff, like sometimes we say, "Oh, I'm going to MC that event." I don't know why we say that, but animating is fun.
We have the translation. Is MC for a master of ceremony?
Oh, yeah, it is actually. Oh my gosh, yeah. I totally knew that.
We have the literal translation for that, which is maître de cérémonie, but we don't call them MC or MC. We don't often use this term. We just say, host.
Mm-hmm. Yep, exactly.
Yeah, that's it.
For sure. Great. Yeah, so going back to the French community, I'd love to hear what you love the most about the French community, because, I think it's a really cool opportunity for you to, number one, stand out, but also to make close connections, because, maybe it's a more tight-knit group.
There are not that many active users on the French community, not that many questions asked as well. But I think by engaging users, answering their questions, trying the user groups as well in Paris, and trying just posting blog articles, trying something new, just creating material or animating the French forum, we can bring people to this community dynamic and make them engage. And I think more users are coming, and there are many things to build. As there are not that much material or discussions, we can start many things. So the user groups, I have the projects I'm trying to do. Arthur, last year, I think it was last year, started a thread where he was giving one advice a day to the community. So that's something you can find on the French community, and people can just go into that and look for advice based on how they use Alteryx. And I think there are many things we can create in the French community to make it more I don't have the word, but more alive, something like that.
Sure. Yeah.
And I think it just takes time. It takes time to build a community, of course, but I think in France it may take some time because there are, I think it's more in the English or US culture to have this sense of community, to have this, like I am using the Alteryx, and naturally I'm going to help people to participate in the community, and I think we don't have that spirit as much as you do in France. We don't have that much of a community spirit, unfortunately, but some people have, and I think there are going to be more and more users with time, and engaged users as well, and we just have to be patient and in the same time build some project, bring value, construct some materials, and just keep what we are doing with the user groups also. And I think it will just naturally come with more users and more engagement.
Yeah, and you're definitely leading the charge there for sure with creating that great content. And as you mentioned, Arthur, which for our listeners, we mentioned him earlier, he's one of the aces, and he has put together this thread on the French community advice of the day. I think that is so cool because, and especially like your questions that you ask as well, users love the tips and tricks and kind of those quick little tidbits of information, and that's what people really like. So I think that's really, really cool. And I also will say too, I was looking at some of your questions that you've put together, and the English translation on Chrome is actually really, really great. So even just popping over if you're not a French speaker, I did that the other day, and I was able to decipher what your posts were, even though I don't speak French. So for any English listeners out there who don't speak French, feel free to pop over to the French community and see, all this amazing content, because there's definitely a lot of value there. So my last question, what is one piece of advice that you have for our listeners?
One advice I think would be, if you have an idea, just try it. Because you have an idea, you may think it's good or bad, but it's not because you think it's good or bad that other people will think the same. When you are starting, when you have an idea for the community, you are doing it for you, of course, because you like that, but mostly you are doing it for the other users, and it's important to know what they think about your idea. You may think your idea is bad, but people will love it. Also, it's impossible to please everyone, to have an idea that everyone will love or like. So if you have something you like, some people like also or love, just do it. And if some people don't like it, it's not a problem. If they have constructive critique, that's good to know, because not because it's your idea and some people think it's good that it's good for everything, but if you have constructive feedback, just use it, improve your idea, iterate, and then you will get a better idea. It will get better, and then you will build your project, and you will just be happy with what you build. Users will be happy as well, and also I think users are happy when they make a feedback and they see their feedback has been heard, has been used to improve the idea. And I think it's good for everybody, because when you have especially when you have built something when you're alone, you are the one who created it, and you may not have all the picture of the idea, and that's why to have some other people point of view can be important. When you are building a project with some people, that's less of a problem, but when you are alone, I think having other people point of view is important. So yeah, when you have an idea, just try it, ask people what they think about, and some ideas will work, some won't work, happens, but that's by trying, iterating, and restarting that you will just achieve what you want and what you like, and that you will make something useful for the users and that the users will love.
Yeah, spoken like a true problem solver, for sure. Somebody who's recognizing just that value of collaborating with other people. I think that's so important to problem solving. And yeah.
Thank you.
Thanks for listening. To find your Alteryx user group, learn more about resources mentioned in this episode, or to connect with Jean-Baptiste himself, check out our show notes at community.alteryx.com/podcast, where you can comment directly on the episode page and say hi. Catch you next time.